I did my project on the Roma, aka the Gypsies. Gypsies originated as native people in the Punjab region of northern India. They were given the nickname Gypsies because the Europeans thought they came from Egypt, but they didn't. They are made up of even smaller groups called tribes or nations and speak the language Romani. For a long time, the Gypsies were persecuted in Europe. The age group ranges from child to adult, and the genders are both male and female. The Gypsies have no specific date when they originated. The closest piece of information to the origin of the Gypsies were military invasions on the part of Alexander the Great. In 1939, almost a million Roma lived in Europe. About half the population lived in Eastern Europe. Relatively few Roma lived in Western Europe. The Roma mostly lived in the Soviet Union and Romania. Here are two of their survivor stories. The first survivor is Maria Savamosi, and she was one of four born into a poor family in the capital of Moldavia in eastern Romania. When she was 17, she was sent to the east of Moldavia by cattle car, and she was transported to Transnistria, where she marched to a farm to be left for dead. She ended up surviving because her dad was a soldier and he smuggled her to safety. Maria ended up surviving and was reunited to her family. Marie City was a part of a tribe called the Laura Roma who traveled in caravans, making a living as itinerant horse traders. She was married to Carl and had 6 children. A couple years later, the Gypsies' campground was fenced off by police guards. The Nazis took Mary's husband Carl and killed him and sent back Marie's ashes a couple months later. She grieved because of this and she cut off her hair. And a few months later, the Germans deported the rest of the Gypsies back to a Nazi camp in Birkenau. In 1944, Mary was deported to Ravensbrück and liberated in Bergen-Belsen. She was then reunited with her 5 surviving children. The living conditions were lethal to the Gypsies. Nearly half of the Roma died within the first few months of their arrival due to lack of food, fuel, shelter, and medicines. Nazis and the police officials deported those who survived the harsh conditions to the killing center in Chelmno. Tens of thousands of Jewish residents in the Roma died in gas vans and were poisoned by carbon monoxide. Reasons why Jews were identified as scapegoats. One of the reasons is because of Hitler. Hitler wanted to rid the Jews from society and would do anything to do it. So he started creating lies and were brainwashing the Germans, and the Germans started believing these lies. Another reason is that there was a myth way before Hitler came around that a Jew killed Christ. At this time, the Germans have always been suspicious about Jews. Anti-Semitism in Germany. Adolf Hitler inspired many theories of racial struggle of the Jews to survive and expand. The Germans would order anti-Jewish boycotts, book burnings, and made anti-Jewish legislation. In 1935, the Nuremberg laws divided Jews by race. They assigned the total separation of Aryans and non-Aryans. The Nazis destroyed synagogues and more things about the Jewish. Other countries' reaction to the Holocaust. At first, the countries were shocked when they heard the news about the Holocaust, and the British Prime Minister called in to bomb a concentration camp in Auschwitz. This never ended up happening because they ended up ignoring him. The Nazis even offered the British 1 million prisoners in exchange for 10,000 trucks. The British declined this offer because they didn't know what to do with the prisoners once they were freed. But this was a mistake because it could have saved a lot of innocent people. Later, President Roosevelt agreed to issue a statement punishing the German for its genocidal policy against the Jews. After that, the camps were bombed and the Jews were liberated. And here am I, we're excited.